World Athletics and the London Marathon. And as I mentioned, the Penn Relays, Peyton Jordan back out here in California at Stanford University, that one-day meet. And then coming back for Cal in Stanford for the big meet at April 30th. A great April shaping up here on FloTrack. As I mentioned in the opening, 80 plus degrees today, 84 unofficially on my smartphone, about a dozen degrees warmer than it's going to be tomorrow, and then things are going to dial it back even more on Saturday with the possibility, fingers crossed we don't get it with some precip rolling in, but they come here not only for the competition but also for the beautiful weather conditions, and this is actually maybe a little bit warmer than a lot of these athletes and teams expected. And the first gun of our oval race weekend just fired, and we are underway. The first heat of the Women's Open steeplechase. 16 athletes scheduled to be on the all-weather surface. The women in the steeplechase contested over 30-inch barriers, 4 of those per lap, plus the water jump. And we'll get things ironed out as they come up to the common finish line for the first time, and just in a handful of meters they'll contest that first 30-inch barrier. Up and over goes the field. As I mentioned, 5 heats will go from slow to fast. This is the open division of the women's steeplechase. We'll come back with the invitational groups, and both genders will have 3 heats, with the men going first, and the men's steeplechase barriers, we hike them up to 36 inches. So everybody over nice and smooth. Barrier number 3 in the books, coming up to the water jump for the first time. And there they go, up and over. So as most venues are, the water jump on the inside of the track. So each and every lap just a little bit under 400 meters. So Kai Downs from Missouri, the sophomore, currently sitting in the number 2 spot, and they go through a lap and a half in just over 2 minutes. But our entire field still bunched up about 20 meters, and coming up to the second barrier on lap number 2. Things really haven't stretched out that far, as the bulk of this field within 1,500 meters. And as I mentioned, Kai Downs, a sophomore from Missouri, now the leader going to the water jump for the second of 7 laps. And the field cleanly up and over, and on this 84-degree day, I'm certain the trips through the water jump might actually be a refreshing thing this afternoon. A lot of times in April, especially on the East Coast, and maybe we hit it at the Penn Relays, at night under the lights in Franklin Field, sometimes the temps aren't too far north of the freezing mark. Another one in the books, still leading the way, Kai Downs from Missouri. And look at that shot up above the oval here at Azusa Pacific. We'll have to see if we can take it up to the top of the mountaintops nearby. So Downs leading a group of 8, and then a slight separation. Back to the number 9 runner in this field. Once again, the seed time's going slow to fast, so each of the winning times definitely going to dial it up just a little bit. As Kai Downs from Missouri still in front, but Juliana Stogdill from Lewis, Division II school from the Midwest, challenging for the lead, and at start finish they're side by side. And we are right about mid-race, and things are starting to stretch out just a little bit. And a sun-baked day, Thursday afternoon in Azusa, California. Getting started with the first individual event of the weekend. The multi-event or combined event athletes have been working it since 9 o'clock this morning on the West Coast. And right now working it in, still in the lead, Kaya Downs from Missouri. Lead group in heat number 1 of the women's 3,000 steeplechase, 7 runners. We'll get some more IDs on those athletes. We mentioned Downs from Missouri, Stogsdill from Lewis amongst the leaders. The facility and Bryan Clay Invitational record for this event, 9:40.98 for Elise Thorner from New Mexico. That record was set 2 Aprils ago in 2022. Gretchen Kuffel from Grand Canyon now challenging Downs for the lead. And we're coming up on 2 to go, to less than 800 meters. But still a half a dozen runners within just a couple strides. And again, spacing is so important in this event, coming up to these barriers, because even though they're only 2.5 feet tall, they will not move. If you hit them, you will be the one taking the brunt of that contact. And Downs now, the biggest advantage she has had all race long. And not long after I got that out, we have a new leader. As Downs was looking at a PR of 10:54, she slipped back to the number 3 spot. That is Kuffel from Grand Canyon. Final lap, 9:30 on the clock coming up in just a second. Gretchen Kuffel from Grand Canyon University, your leader by about 3 strides. And up to that second barrier challenge, but Kuffel retains a lead. Now it's open track down the back straight, one more barrier, then they go to the water jump, and then one final 30-inch obstacle in their path. And that is Frida Giersdorf from North Dakota, the new leader, coming into the final 200 meters. Giersdorf coming up to the water jump. Splashes and out. And the first one to hit the line in the first individual race of this year's Bryan Clay Invitational, it is going to be Frida Giersdorf from North Dakota. And in the 1040s, and a big close, that is Alexis Roll. It looked like from North Dakota State, potentially in the number 2 spot. Up, they go to Castelli. That is Katie Castelli from Santa Clara. Her official time, 10:42.73. You see the results populating on your smartphone, laptop, or big screen TV. And you definitely want as big a picture and great a resolution as possible to the surroundings here at Azusa Pacific. So 10:40.78, the number 1 time on the board right now in the women's open steeplechase.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, JoJo, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you.
Oh. All right, race number 2 in the women's open steeplechase, joined now by JoJo Gretzel. JoJo, welcome. Gorgeous day in Southern California, but is it too hot for top performances? It's 80-some degrees in April. I don't think they were expecting that.
It's a little spicy out there. I mean, on the drive down, it was about 89 degrees. It might be a little cooler down here by the mountains, but it's a good thing they're running a 3K and the 10Ks aren't till later tonight, I think.
All right, so on the track right now, heat number 2 of the women's steeplechase. I know you ran for Tulane. Did you ever contest the steeple?
No, I didn't. I wish I had. The steeple's a really fun event. I feel like it's a great great distance between, obviously the 1500 and the 5K. I feel like a lot of people would probably love a flat 3K as well. But also just, you have to have a little bit more athleticism than in some of the flat events, which makes it really exciting. And it kind of ends up like some surprising people end up being able to place really well in this.
And you mentioned about the 1500 and the 5K. I've asked a number of top steeplechasers how they came about the event. Was it that they were a miler that just wasn't fast enough, or did they not have the endurance to do the 5K? So the 3K / steeplechase was sort of what they were presented as, hey, this is going to be your best opportunity for success.
Right. Or sometimes I think it just seems fun. A little bit different event in track and field, where you do get to display a little athleticism. It's a little more like play, jumping over barriers, getting a little dirty in the water pit. I think that is what attracts people to it a little bit too. I think it has a little bit of that cross-country ethos built into it.
This is true. I was able to do that once a long time ago back in college, and it was a very cold day. I remember that one. Maybe like 35, 36 degrees. It seemed like the water pit had a little bit of sheen of ice on it, but
You're ice skating out there.
That's right. Different story here today at Azusa Pacific. Again, 10:40. The young lady from North Dakota, the winner in the first heat, will go slow to fast in these open sections and come back with the invitational races for the women after the men's invite sections. So thus far, JoJo, in the collegiate season, whether it's cross into indoor, into outdoors so far, what has really jumped out at you, and especially the athletes that are scheduled to be here this weekend? Are you looking forward to see them compete again?
Of course, I think we're all excited to see what Parker Valby is going to do in her 10,000 meter debut tonight. Potentially looking at, if Parker's on the track, some records could potentially go down. Some fast times are going to go down, especially with her background as being more of a low mileage runner with a lot of cross training. I think she's pretty famous for that at this point. The 10K is an interesting event for her because usually you do have to be able to handle a little more volume to run well in those longer distances. So that's going to be very interesting.
Well, as you mentioned, expecting something special from her, because it seemed like, again, in addition to the limited mileage and training, also a limited race schedule. So every time she comes out, it seems like she hits a grand slam.
That's right. We haven't seen her race, since she won the indoor national title in the 5K, setting a collegiate record. So, of course, her coming back out on the track is going to be pretty anticipated.
And that was after she blasted the record, the old record, away at Boston University, coming off the cross-country season, again, where she won that national championship. All right, down the back straight again, a handful up front. And looking at over 10 runners in section number 2 of field scheduled to be at 19. So a big field. They're coming up on 4 laps to go the next time by start-finish. And a great shot overhead. Oh, and we saw one of those athletes going down, coming out of the water jump. But the drone footage this weekend is just going to be a big plus, adding to the fantastic coverage this weekend on FloTrack.
And it looks like that's Tia Oliver from Sacramento State who's leading our pack at the minute.
So that lead group of 5 following Oliver, 4 laps to go at 5 minutes on the button. So the fatigue factor really comes into play each and every time you're over those barriers, and then when you hit the water jumps, normally maybe it isn't as refreshing of a feeling as it is today since it's 80+ degrees outside, but the water actually, you say, wow, that's nice. That maybe cooled me down a little bit because I felt like I was overheating.
Definitely.
Oliver from Sacramento State still up front over barrier number 3. We'll see the big number 3 when they hit the finish line the next time by, but in between one water jump.
And this should be pretty exciting to watch them go over the water jump. We saw them running these top two women in this section running neck and neck, basically sharing lane one. It looks like they gave each other some room for that water jump, so no contact, no casualties there. But always interesting to see people running in a pack. Definitely makes it a little anxiety-inducing to get over those hurdles cleanly.
So on the inside now, it is Brooklyn Quans from Mississippi State and Tia Oliver from Sacramento State on the outside, with Quans just a stride or two advantage. Again, 3 laps to go, just under 6:30.
And Quans is a freshman from Mississippi State, from Ontario, Canada.
The 3K national lead in all collegiate ranks, Jeanette Schraff, senior from Iowa State, 9:48.20 back in the last weekend in March. Quan still in front. And looking at the leaderboard, just 2 athletes so far this season have gone under 10 minutes in the women's 3K steeplechase. And going down to the number 10 position, that's 10:11. So we went 10:40 in our first section in this open event for the women's steeplechase. Again, Quads from Mississippi State still in the lead.
Quans is coming off a PB 10:45 at the LSU's Battle on the Bayou from the other weekend. A runner-up finish for her in Baton Rouge.
And Quans and Oliver have stretched out the field. You see the advantage as they go over the second barrier on this next to last lap that they have. There's a shot up above, first, second, and third on your screen right now. Down the back straight, headed for another barrier. And you mentioned, JoJo, earlier about the 10K, maybe about how rarely an athlete is going to run that. This is also another event where it's not on the schedule week in and week out for these athletes if the steeple is their specialty.
Right. Sorry, the 10K or
no,
the steeple?
I said like the 10K, the steeple, they're not running it every weekend, just like you don't run a 10K every weekend.
Potentially, yeah.
All right, Quans and Oliver. Final barrier on the next to last lap.
And Oliver's been hanging on to her. Her PB coming in is a 10:49, so Quans has about a 5-second PB gap on her. But if Oliver can hang in there, she might be able to get pulled along to a nice PR today.
So 9:25 was the time with 1 lap remaining. Again, just a little bit under 400 meters as the water jump is inside the rail. Cleanly over the second barrier with Brooklyn Quans, the freshman from Mississippi State, in front. And I don't think she is going to take the overall lead. That was 10:40, and they're at 10:20 right now on the clock into the water jump for the final time, our 2 leaders. But taking a victory back to the Mississippi State campus, it is going to be Brooklyn Quans. And she will sneak under 10:50. 10:49.04 for Brooklyn Quans. The winning time in heat number 2. Now, JoJo, in your college running career, how many big meets like this did you get to contest when you were at Tulane?
Well, I wasn't traveling too much to California. We did come race at San Diego State one year during spring break, which was a lot of fun to come out. Mostly been to California track meets to report on them, not racing them.
All right, we'll be back with heat number 3 of the women's steeplechase live on FloTrack. So are we going to go to commercial in between each? And perfect timing back with heat number 3 of the women's open division of the steeplechase. Phil Grove and JoJo Gretzel. Day 1 of the Bryan Clay Invitational. $19 scheduled to be on the track for this one, and we're seeing kits from LSU, Wyoming, Texas, the Bobcats of Ohio University. And coming up to the first barrier.
Out in front with the bow is Callie Hardy from LSU. The junior is coming off some nice PBs to start her outdoor season. Not a bad way to start when you set a PB in the 1500, the 800, and the 3K in the month of March. Pretty good run for her. So she's coming in with new PRs of 420, 209 in the 8, 928 in the 3K. So that should translate to a nice PB here. As you can see, she's already opening up that gap. It looks like she's ready to wipe that 3K steeplechase PR of 1050 off the books because she's obviously in pretty good shape. So this should be fun.
And going back to the SEC indoor meet, also that one highlighted in yellow, the mile PR of 441. So she has been on a tear, and right now in the lead, Callie Hardy from LSU.
That's right, taking 8th place in that SEC indoor final. Being able to score points at your conference meet at SECs definitely means you're a high-quality athlete. So I think she's going to run pretty fast today.
And definitely makes the coaching staff happy. Placing at the conference is of utmost importance to collegiate programs. So Hardy's advantage now pushing close to 20 meters, and you'll see a lot of different hurdling styles. Again, these barriers will not move if you hit them, so you want to maybe give an extra little bit of clearance over them versus what we will see in the 100-meter hurdle sprint hurdles later on this weekend at Azusa Pacific. And up and over for Callie Hardy from LSU.
And she's a Louisiana native from Livingston, Louisiana, went to Episcopal High School.
So in the number 2 position, that's Oakley Olson from Utah Valley. And then Megan Johnson from Central College, one of those non-D1 athletes here at the Bryan Clay Invitational. but they have a lot of track to make up to catch up to Callie Hardy from LSU. That gap has grown to almost 30 meters now down the back straight.
I think she's on a mission to prove she should be in the fast section next time.
She is definitely going to do some major damage to that 1050 PR in this distance if she keeps up the pace, and those 30-inch barriers don't look like they're 36 or 39 inches tall. And the closest pursuer to Callie Hardy is Megan Johnson from Central College. With Oakley Olson from Utah Valley in the number 3 spot. And with 4 laps to go, 4:43 for Hardy. And she has a cushion of about 6 seconds over her closest pursuer. I was chatting with one of the other FloTrack staffers out here in Azusa, California before we went live, talking about what I was really looking forward to, and he had mentioned, that's Bryan had mentioned, the D2 and D3 athletes who are coming out here. You may see them down in the second and third heat, but they're going to be pulled along to some really top times that could maybe break national records. And we've seen it indoors at Boston University when they go out there and crush some 5Ks thanks to the pacing and work of those D1 runners.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point.
Still a little stutter step before the barrier, but Callie Hardy up and over. And Megan Johnson a little smoother over the barrier. We'll see if that plays a factor with 3 laps remaining. It has been Hardy pushing the pace from the beginning, and that advantage has definitely shrunk over the last few laps. Madeline Deneen from Clemson. She's got the white hat on. She's currently in the number 4 spot behind Oakley Olson from Utah Valley.
Yeah, we might have a race on our hands here.
Johnson is now within about a dozen meters. And we'll see if she cuts it even more with being more efficient over these barriers. And I think she has. Going into the water jump, coming out of it, we could be down to a 5-meter gap between our leader, Callie Hardy, and Megan Johnson from Central College. And JoJo, what's Megan's resume say?
So she's actually coming off a couple PBs recently, outdoor season. She ran a 4:33 last weekend, and also a 35-minute 10K, which looks like it might have been her debut at that distance. No, sorry, not her debut, but a PB nonetheless. So, I mean, by personal records alone, Callie Hardy is the faster athlete, but I think, seeing Johnson overtake her, it really just shows how hard it is to go out super hard and try and run away from the field. Even if on paper it looks like your PRs are better. And we mentioned before, it's hot today, so that definitely is going to take a toll on you trying to go out and lead the whole thing by yourself. Yeah, in Baton Rouge, I'm certain they've had some sweltering days already, but again, it is 84 degrees plus potentially right now in California, as Megan Johnson on that last lap going into and out of the water jump assumed the lead. She had about 3 minutes between herself and the finish line and taking the overall lead. This is heat number 3 of 5. We're going slow to fast. These are the open sections
of the women's steeplechase. Johnson has really stretched it out over the last lap in 100 meters, up and over the last barrier on the next to last lap. It is Megan Johnson's race to win, and she gets the bell at 8:59. Hardy's still in second, and the new number 3 runner from McNeese State, that is Jenny Barcenas. Johnson really played her cards right in this race. You mentioned how difficult it is to lead from wire to wire, especially in a demanding race like the steeple, but she really did play her cards right.
Yeah, and maybe she just had a better sense of the pace she was able to handle today. You know, when you're trying out a longer event for the first time in a long time, maybe like Callie was, it's hard to gauge effort and how sustainable that can be. But hey, always props for going for it.
To the water jump for the final time, Megan Johnson, the leader in heat number 3 of the women's steeplechase.
Johnson, too, is one of those D3 athletes that we were just talking about, and she's coming off a 6th place finish at the NCAA Indoor Championships in the flat 3K. So definitely one of the top athletes in D3 making her mark here this afternoon.
And she's going to take over this lead in a big way. Sub 10:20 run for Megan Johnson. The official time, 10:19.79. There it is. And that is a new D3 national leader by almost 5 seconds. Megan Johnson, the old lead was 10:24.28 by Aubrey Fisher from Wartburg. So Megan Johnson gets the job done and reshuffles the deck. In section number 3, the open division of the women's steeple. And they'll move the one barrier out of the way and get set for the flat opening, almost 250 meters for the field in heat number 4. And in this one, we see some Power 5 conferences, also see some top quality Division II programs. They see Saginaw Valley coming down from Michigan. We saw Grand Valley also in this heat. So a good mix, once again, in our next race on the track. Called to the line, and we're underway. The field's getting bigger, 20 in this one. And the run out to the first barrier, you can definitely see a quicker pace from this group. And we'll ID our early leader here in just a moment. Coming down the back straight, we got a nice drone shot. And you can see if that drone shot, just how they space out. And you'll also see here down the back straight, everybody spreads out, gives their fellow competitors some room. They don't want to go down or hit a barrier. They go out into lane 3.
That's right, everyone wants a clean race. It looks like that's Sammy Lee, a junior from Utah State, who's out front right now. She actually comes in with her personal best from the 2023 Bryan Clay Invitational. She ran 10:26 here last year, so returning to Azusa, hoping to improve on that time.
And right now that 10:26 won't take the overall lead, but will definitely move her up in the top several runners, as BYU's Reagan Peterson, a freshman, on the rail and in the lead, as they're looking at big number 6 on the board at 2:07. 6 laps to go. Another nice drone shot of that second barrier. Working lap number 2. And a massive move on the outside, going from about 8th or 10th place into the lead by 4 or 5 meters going into the water jump the next time by, and we'll get an ID on our young lady in blue, wearing some shades here in the afternoon sun in the Azusa Pacific, and went real deep into the water pit. Nice attack on the barrier, and getting some encouragement from her coach along the rail.
It looks like that's Ashley Reek of Western Washington.
And that gap between first and second, about 6 meters.
The sophomore just set her PB at the 3,000 steeplechase at Stanford the other weekend, running a 10:34.
So apparently thinking that we needed a uptick in the tempo. Again, moved from well back in the field and has stretched the field out, as right about this time a lap ago she took the lead and now has 10 meters on her closest pursuer.
And a note on one of our former leaders up front in that chase pack, Reagan Peterson, the freshman out of BYU, she was the high school national champion in the steeplechase last spring, making her college debut at this event. Sorry, not her college debut. She actually ran a 10:32 at Stanford.
So we have a couple of 10:30 performers from the Stanford Invitational coming back here 2 weeks later down the coast to Bryan Clay to contest this event one more time. And probably a week or so after our next big event on the collegiate track scene, the Penn Relays, coming up to conference championship time. And this time of the year, JoJo, do you remember your training cycles, sort of how they started to change from really putting in that base, still pounding the miles, to focusing on fine-tuning, sharpening, and getting ready for the conference champs?
Definitely. I mean, the meets this time of year are definitely about showing off your fitness, running some PRs, getting your marks, so that you're racing into shape for conference championships, so that when you're at conference, you're able to handle maybe a tactical pace. Those are always a slightly different type of race, not always going to be a PR race at those championship meets. And
probably doing some doubling, maybe of 5 and 10 over 2 different days.
Exactly.
The first 4 runners within 5 meters, and we see some movement within that pack as 3 to go at 6:13. So they have about 4 minutes to complete those final 3 laps and maybe take over the overall lead. As we mentioned again, 2 weeks from now, we will be at the Penn Relays in Philadelphia Franklin Field. The big one on many scheduled with so many different events. The relays, you can really show the depth of your team. The Bison Outdoor Classic, also in Pennsylvania at Lewisburg at Bucknell University. That is Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, the Rotterdam Marathon. And you see coming back to California on the 26th for the Peyton Jordan at Stanford. And then the big meet 4 days later, Stanford and Cal battling as they always do in various sports. A very important dual meet, and you don't see that much anymore. The dual meets carry the import that the invites do, with the opportunities to go out there and really put down some fast times. But JoJo, it looks like we do have a new leader out on the track. And coming up with 2 laps to go at the 7:41 mark.
It looks like that's Margot Thomas for CSU Pueblo.
Another D2 school coming west and out of altitude. And there's the gap between first and now second place. As I mentioned, each of these barriers 30 inches tall. For the women, 36 for the men, as we are in our 4th of 5 sections for the women's steeplechase.
Definitely still a race out here. Allison Ashley of Tulsa running in second right now with 2 more girls on her tail.
And that's Jessica Friedland from Gonzaga, a freshman. And then I think that's North Dakota's Jaden Keeler in the number 4 spot. 1 to go at 9:08. And the number on the board right now, 10:19. Reagan Johnson from Central College, the winner in that last section. So again, Megan Johnson's 10:19.79. The only runner under 10:20, also the only one under 10:30 so far. And bringing it to the line, our winner from Tulsa. At 10:30, so she'll join the group in the second, third, and fourth place overall.
Looks like that's a 2-second PR for Allison Ashley.
See that 10:31.19 puts her in the number 3 spot.
Definitely a nice way to open up the outdoor season. Last year she was 3rd in the steeplechase at the American Outdoor Championships. So definitely looking to increase that to the top spot.
And as the rest of the field in heat number 4 brings their 7+ lap race adventure to a close. We will step aside for a short break and be back with the 5th and final section of the open races for the women's steeplechase live from Azusa Pacific. And we are underway with our heat number 5 of the women's open steeplechase. And this group just a little smaller, so it looks like maybe we had some scratches going into our 5th and final section of the open steeplechase at this year's Bryan Clay Invitational. Again, named after the Olympic decathlon gold medalist, and he competed collegiately here at Azusa Pacific. Bryan Clay back in '08.
That's Rachel Krister for Air Force, the senior, out to the early lead. She comes in with a season's best of 10:22, run the other weekend at the Stanford Invite. Last year, she was 3rd in the steeplechase at the Mountain West Outdoor Championships. So definitely comes in with a lot of steeplechase experience, hoping to get that PB down below 10:16, which she ran at the NCAA West preliminary round last year. This is a competitive one out front.
Side by side coming through the end of the first lap of barriers and water jumps.
Grace Gilbreth, a junior at Montana State, running on the inside, challenging for that lead. She's coming off a 10:20 PB in the steeple at the Stanford Invite. Lots of people stopped over at Stanford before coming out to Bryan Clay.
Again, 2 venues that historically have had great weather conditions and also tremendous distance races. So front 5 separated by a handful of strides, but the lead 2 side by side. Kreitzer and Gilbreth down the back straight.
Gilbreth for Montana State also coming off a nice 1500 PB of 4:35. So she's probably feeling pretty good about her speed right now.
So our 2 front runners definitely have the wheels to take over the overall lead from Megan Johnson, the D3 runner from Central College, that 10:19 that we saw 2 races ago. And this one has been a battle up front that has stretched the field out. So Sega Hagelin in the number 3 spot. And then jumping back to Stanford's Riley Stewart, she is sitting 4th. And those first 4 runners separated almost evenly by a stride or 2. They are working lap number 3 with the barriers, with Gilbreth from Montana State in the lead.
Hagelin for Weber State coming off her own PB, 10:21 in the steeple from the Mike Finelli Track Classic 2 weekends ago. Also a nice 1500 PB of 4:30. So these women are pretty evenly matched when you're looking at their best recorded times.
Four to go at 4:42 on the clock for the young lady from the Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs. And she has her biggest lead of the race thus far. Not that much, about 6 meters. Take a look from the drone up and over barrier number 2.
Okay, sao you know that, huh? Ai to nó nè.
Still, it is Kreitzer from the Air Force Academy leading that margin between first and second, almost 10. With Gilbreth still in second, 6:05. So for the final 3 laps, they have about 4:13 or so. If they can finish that just less than 1,200 meters in that amount of time, they will take the overall lead in our first individual race of this year's Bryan Clay Invitational. Phil Grove, Old School Track, and JoJo Gretzel bringing you all the action, and JoJo's going to have the opportunity to talk to some of our winners this weekend in the marquee races, the invite sections, and we will get that rolling in not too long of a time with the men's invitational steeplechase winner, then the women's, then the 10Ks later on tonight. Nice look from up above of the water jump. It's coming up on the 6 o'clock hour on the West Coast, as Rachel Kreitzer from Air Force still leading, but not giving up the chase. Grace Gilbreth from Montana State, 2 laps to go at 7:32. And Megan Johnson still our leader at 10:19. One of her teammates, Caroline McMartin, is in this field. And Caroline, as we get a new leader, she is sitting in the number 6 position. But that new leader is Grace Gilbreth from Montana State.
Big move. Krister's still hanging on.
But they have separated themselves from the rest of the field. The gap between second and third is 20 plus meters. Another water jump attempt. And through that are 2 leaders. Oh, and actually missed the water jump. That is Gilbreth. She's got to go back. I was looking for the splash because there are tents in the way. Somehow she missed the water jump. And oh, that is going to be painful when this race is over, and it definitely has thrown the race now into the hands once again of Rachel Kreitzer from Air Force.
Oh, that's brutal.
And Emily Jobs from Boise State now in the number 2 spot. Can she challenge? It's just at 9 minutes. Oh, that one's good. Oh, that is going to last for a long time, unfortunately.
You don't see that happen too often.
No, especially this late in the race, maybe the first water jump, but exactly what would happen with her sight lines as a 3-runner battle now. They have just 2 barriers and 1 water jump. as Emily Jobs from Boise State, just a couple strides behind her Rocky Mountain foe, Rachel Kreitzer from Air Force. The two going into the water jump, separated by 3 strides. Splashes and through. And now the run out to one more barrier, 30 inches tall. And stutter step up and over. And running out to victory, Rachel Kreitzer from Air Force. And just going to miss taking that overall lead at 10:22 and change. It's like 10:22.28 for our winner. So the new national lead, Megan Johnson, holds up as the top time in the open sections of the women's steeplechase. As the rest of this field wraps up their 3K event, and they will raise the barrier height to 36 inches and get ready for the men's steeple live from Bryan.